speaking about malware, now we consider botnets in more details. Botnets are a huge number of remotely controlled computers. These computers are called bots, and typically these computers become the bot characteristic by an infection with malware, by an infection without the knowledge of the owner of the computer. So the bots, the 100,000 of bots are on the one side, and there is one special part in the botnets, that is the command and control server. This is central, this is controlled by the attacker, and this, by means of this command and control server, the attacker is able to remotely manage, to remotely coordinate, to remotely control all the huge number of bots. So the command and control server takes the control remotely over the bots, and then he sends operating instructions which then are performed independently on the many bots of the botnets. So this operation instruction could, for example, be a command to start a connection to a service, to an online service, and if many bots belonging to the botnets and doing exactly in the same moment such kind of request, then typically the service is no more able to correct in the right way. So exactly this is the idea of the attack, the combination of so many bots so that a large number of attacks with high computational power can be performed. Can be performed simply by in the same moment controlling and letting the bots work. Here is an illustration of what's going on. We have the attacker with his station, we have the command and control server, and we have the many clients whose systems are infiltrated with malware that they became bots of such a botnet. So the first step to establish such a botnet is to infiltrate malware to many computers that are connected to the internet. Often these are connected, not professionally configured. Many of the clients are school or universities computer. So this infiltration with the malware makes these client systems to become bots. This is the first step. Then the second step is that the command and control server establish connection to the bots. Establish a connection to the bot, and then in the third step, the attacker is able, over the command and control server, to send commands to all the bots, which later on can be performed, for example, for an attack. So an attacker infects many clients with malware. Typically, it's performed by Trojans, which are used to conceal real function. Worms are used to infiltrate the systems with malware. Worms allow fast automatic spreading as well. And web browsers vulnerabilities are also misused to serve as an entry gate. So here you see there are the malware combines different characteristics with the idea to establishing such a botnet. The malware, the idea of the malware is to allow the communication with the command and control server, with the central server that's used by the attacker to control all these bots. The clients that have become bot can then receive and execute the remote commands of the command and control server. They do what the attacker wants them to do. So an attacker can send his commands to the bots via the control and the command and control server, and then the bots work independently. So the bots execute the commands they received from the CNC server independently. If we look to some attack scenarios that are performed by botnets, then we can see that cybercriminals use such botnets, for example, to perform distributed denial of service attacks. Distributed denial of service attack. The idea of the attack is simply to misuse, to overload a service by sending commands, for example, to get connected or to get access to the service. The cybercriminal use the botnets for sending spam emails. The idea and the misuse of the botnets by the attacker and the CN server is that the attacker's sender address is hidden, because what the people see is the address of the bot who sends, for example, the email, or the bot who sends the request to the service. Another application of botnets is to perform click fraud, which is used in advertising industry to measure the efficiency and the success rate of some web pages. The cybercriminals can use botnets to read bots' sensitive data, for example, to spy out passwords or bank accounts or other personal data. The botnets can be misused to provide illegal information and resources, for example, to take a storage medium or perform attack the service provider. Cryptocurrency, bitcoins can be calculated, can be created. For example, Bitcoin mining is something typically that can be done by botnets. It can be done by attackers via the CNC server and can be formed on botnets, because for the Bitcoin mining a huge amount of performance is needed. Ransomware can be used, for example, to blackmail by encrypting personal data and demand money to provide the decryption key, and many more attacks can be done. Here are some famous examples of such botnets. First, I want to mention Zeus. Zeus, and this shows, is estimated to have, the botnet Zeus is estimated to consist of 3,600,000 bots. And this botnet was discovered in 2007. Configure is another botnet with estimated 9 million bots. It was discovered in 2008. Zero Access, another botnet with 9 million bots, which was discovered 2011. Mirai, which has 1.5 million bots, was discovered 2016. So you see, these botnets are really powerful due to the huge amount of bots which can be controlled by an attacker over the attacker's command and control server. If we look to some example of botnet attacks, let's start with an attack to mine bitcoins. Thanks to the huge number of bots, botnets are very well suited to accomplish tasks which require extremely high but easily distributable computing power. And if one looks to Bitcoin mining, this is exactly such a task. It needs a huge amount of computational power, and the tasks that need to be done can easily parallelized and distributed performed. So Bitcoin mining consumes a lot of computing power, but can easily be distributed. So it's a good application case for such botnets. So a single PC is hardly able to do this. But when an attacker controls many PCs as bot, then this can be this crypto money, the Bitcoin, can be created quite easily. So the first prototype were created in universities where students or employees use workstations to mine. So when the Bitcoin became popular, students tried to mine such Bitcoins. Then attackers took over, and there was discovered in December 2013 that 2 German hackers which had modified a Trojan to mine and thus generate Bitcoins to the equivalent of almost $1 million, and both were catched and arrested. The Storm botnet, this is another famous popular attack which are performed by means of botnets. So the Storm botnet was, I already mentioned this, first discovered in 2007, and it was discovered because a high distribution of the so-called storm worms. The storm worms, that was a malware. This makes the PCs, the clients, let them become bots of the Storm botnet. So the distribution was organized via spam emails, and then subsequently infection of Windows system. It's not clear how many PCs are infected. So the estimations run between 1 and 50 millions. The operators of the Storm botnet have so far remained undetected. So one does not know who is doing this attacks, who is controlling the Storm botnet. So security experts and researchers underwent massive attacks as soon as an investigation were made. So if one tries to find out, then these people became the victims of very hard attacks. Antivirus programs as countermeasures were switched off remotely. This is one part of the attack, so that the systems are no more defended, and the user became not aware of this. So the malware switched off the antivirus program, but the users were believing that the antivirus software works in a correct way. This Storm botnets the bots are strong enough to disconnect whole countries from the internet. There was an example in the past, and to a certain extent and to certain measurements, this Storm botnet is even more powerful than the famous supercomputers. At the end of 2007, the operators of the Storm botnet began to split their organization, possibly to sell parts of the botnet. There is a huge black market for selling such botnets, for taking orders, for attacks which are performed by means of that botnets. So the Storm nets in 2008, they began to split. So the data traffic for communication with the botnet was encrypted as an additional measure to hide what's going on. The architecture is very complex with very different components. So there are backdoor or downloader for malware. A part of this architecture is an SMTP reply server to send emails. SMTP is the internet protocol for email. The attack service for stealing email addresses, for example, to perform spam attacks. Attack software to spread the malware via emails, to, for example, hide the malware in documents or in pictures that are appended to the email. There are components which are responsible to perform distributed denial of service attack there are other components for update versions of malware installers. You see, it's a real fabric, attack fabric, which comes with such a botnet. When we speak about botnets, then Stormfucker is something close to the Storm botnet. It was presented at the Chaos Communication Congress in 2008 in Berlin. So that this Stormfucker is a standalone worm that only infects systems which are already infected with the Stormware. So it comes on top to the Stormware, and then this system removes the Storm malware via update mechanisms. So it's not clear whether it depends with conflicts in the original group to take over parts of the Storm botnet by others. The Stormfucker worm allows to clean up, to remove parts of the Storm botnets. This is possible because the identification of the CNC server was inadequate. There was a mistake, so the verification mechanisms could be cracked by brute force attacks, and this enabled then later to send comments as a new CNC server. So in this way, it allows to take over the original CNC server. Then prompt this Stormfucker worm prompt to update the Storm application and is replaced by codified applications. Then bots do no longer receive the commands from the original command and control server, but now from the new command and control server. So this is the idea of the Stormfucker. You see the attackers fight against each other and also develop methods here with the Stormfucker worm to take over the control over parts of the Storm botnet. I mentioned Zeus botnet, which was first discovered in 2007. The targets here were Windows systems, and it comes with a Trojan that contains additional software for spying out personal data in the web browser, for example, logins for social network or online banking, and it's able to encrypt sensitive data and subsequent extortion for paid publication of the key. The captured data from the Zeus botnet captured data from over 74,000 user accounts from companies, from different companies like NSA, NAS, Bank of America, Oracle, Amazon, Cisco. It is very difficult to detect, and it's very difficult to identify to the sophisticated concealment mechanisms. The Zeus botnet, the Zeus malware, spread through phishing mails and hidden downloads. In the US, they count more than 3,600,000 infected systems, so you can add also systems in other countries. The Zeus operators can finally select the information in which they are interested. For example, they can get access to data, to specific services, to special social networks, to online banking or others. And here are some of the attacks which were performed by Zeus botnet. So in October 2010, the FBI published that Eastern European hackers had succeeded in infection systems with the Zeus malware worldwide. Particularly online accounts were taken over and several thousands dollars were transferred to middlemen. The middlemen had previously opened accounts with fake identities, and then they transferred the stolen money or they smuggled it out of the country. So there is a sophisticated way how to earn money, how to get money, how to transfer money. The Zeus botnet caused a total damage of approximately 70 million US dollar. More than 100 people were found to work with this, to do criminal activities with the Zeus botnet, and were meanwhile arrested. But have in mind, every time if such damage numbers are given, many of the damage is not seen, and people were not become aware of this. There is behind the Zeus botnet, there is a global organization of criminals, which was with a very smart and phenomenal organization. So the cyber criminals attempted to steal in total 220 million US dollar. The FBI alone registered almost 400 fraud cases, and the hacker came from, this was identified from Eastern Europe. The middlemen were from America, Great Britain, and Eastern Europe, and the victims came largely from the US. So you see, it's a huge organization. This picture shows us total FBI case with a 390 fraud, and the hackers. There is an organization behind which uses the Zeus botnet for their criminal activities. Game Over Zeus was discovered at the end of 2013. This is a botnet that's particularly used for bank fraud as well as for criminal encryption of personal data. Compared and unlike older versions, the connection to the CNC server is encrypted. The Game Over Zeus botnet generates thousands of domain names used for communication and are valid only for a short time, only for 1 day. One variation target systems in Ukraine and Belarus, and other computers in the US when they work with these faked domains. In June 2014, an international organization, Operation Towar, succeeded in temporarily disconnecting the connection between the CNC server and the bots. Perhaps this was also an idea to take over parts of the bots or to use the bots for own purposes. You've seen it is not fancy hacking activities. It are really dangerous activities, really dangerous cyber attacks with a huge amount of damage, with many people involved, which are performed by such botnets.